Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are listening from. My name is Warren Howard from Howardco Business and HR Solutions, and we provide practical, relevant HR support to small, medium businesses and their teams, particularly those that are looking to recruit, develop, and lead successful and sustainable teams in their organisations. This video today is a special edition, and it's part of our April newsletter on a topic that is so relevant and so current for any business of any size, but particularly for small to medium businesses. And it's the subject of well-being. And I'm very fortunate today to have two experts on the subject of workplace health and well-being. They are the founders of Own Your Health Collective, and I'd like to introduce Natalie Moore and Lisa Saunders from Own Your Health Collective. Good day to you both.
Good day to you.
Hi, Warren.
We're here for a number of reasons, but first of all, I was at one stage looking for someone to assist us in the area of workplace health and well-being, and I asked around my network if anyone knew of anybody, and you guys were really highly recommended to me by our colleague, Colin Wilson of Key Business Advisors. He'd, I think, shared a platform with you at a local government presentation or seminar that you both delivered, and he said, don't look anywhere else, you need to talk to Natalie and Lisa. So that was the first reason. Then more recently, you've spoken at a conference that I attended for HR professionals. And again, I just really found your information and your knowledge really practical, very easy to listen to and very relevant. And so much so that we've also recommended you both into one of our clients to conduct a workplace health and wellbeing workshop for them. So plenty of reasons why we should be chatting to you guys, but especially as it's such an important topic right now for any business of any size. So without further ado, we've got a few questions to ask you, and you know, the answers to these questions are going to be, I think, not just informative, but also practical and relevant if you're running a small business and you're really interested in this space. And if you're not, you should be. All right, so ready to launch into the questions?
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, terrific. So the first one is, what inspired you to become an expert in this field of workplace health and well-being, and what continues to motivate you in this work?
For me, it was the birth of my daughter, actually. And, you know, as I've gotten older and she's gotten older, I've really come to appreciate the role that significant life stages and changes play in not just our health and our well-being, but also in our perception around life and the experiences that we're willing to, I guess, put up with in the workplace and also in, you know, everyday life as well. So I was feeling very stressed, very overwhelmed, quite unsatisfied in my work, and I just kept thinking to myself, there has to be more to life than just this constant stress and this juggle whilst, you know, managing a young baby and being at work. And actually, I'm quite an avid runner, and I remember having a moment thinking, how can I bring my passion of running into a business, because I've been very passionate about having my own business one day. And that was really the catalyst for me in just looking at, okay, I want to work. Working is something that's very important to me, and I've always been quite ambitious. And if I have to put my daughter in care to do so, I want to make sure that I'm doing work that is fulfilling and energizing, so that I go home feeling my best and feeling like I've still got more to give to her and to my family and myself after the work day as well. So that was a big, big step for me, and a catalyst in going to study coaching and training and, you know, yoga and meditation and really getting to where I am today. But then what continues to motivate me is, as we've moved more and more into workplace wellbeing, we've come to realise that, yes, we talk more and more about it, but it's still very much a bit of a tick and a flick exercise and seen as a nice to have rather than something that is absolutely critical for people to be able to work and live at their best. So my big audacious goal is that by the time my daughter is working full time, that health and wellbeing is part of the culture, part of working conditions, and part of you know, who she is, and she can go into work and know that she's going to be supported and healthy and well, and go home at the end of the day feeling healthy and well, and seen for the person that she is. So she's 8. So I'm saying probably, I don't know, 10 to 12 years before she's in the workforce, and hopefully I can make change before then. But that's really, you know, the big audacious goal for me that motivates me every day.
Thanks, Natalie. What a powerful motivator, you know, trying to create a better world and a better workplace for your 8-year-old daughter. That's wonderful. Thank you. What about you, Lisa? What is it, the same, or is there something different that drives you in the work?
Look, I think there's parallels there. Definitely. I've got two boys, and you know, I want them to go into a workplace where there's, you know, that diversity, inclusion, health is front of mind. You know, supporting others. They'll probably be managers one day, whatever. And what does that look like for the workplace that they're going to? Look, for me, I've always had an interest in health, in nutrition and health. And I think, you know, both Natalie and I come from corporate backgrounds as well. And so you experience firsthand what that is, how that transcends into how you actually work within a corporate workplace, and what you do to push yourself to obviously succeed and perform and all those things. But what gets, you know, almost becomes second best is your health. And we, you know, certainly when I was working in corporate, there wasn't that real awareness around supporting your health and wellness whilst you were also performing. And we know that obviously when we're feeling well in ourselves, that obviously our performance is going to, you know, it should be also wonderful as well. I had a few health challenges in my early 40s, and funnily enough, I finished up at a full-time corporate role in the GFC back in 2008, and I've got a property background. And it allowed me to sort of start thinking about some of the things that I'd like to do if I went back into the workplace, or you know, took on my own business. And it actually, a few years later, I pivoted into that health and wellness, health and food nutritional coaching, and, you know, taken it back into the workplace along with the work that Nat does, in trying to make, you know, workplaces just a nicer place to be working. And I think flexibility also comes in. As a young mum, I had my children late 30s. Another reason for not going back into corporate was around that flexibility, and it's so nice to see that whole flexible workplace come in now, and how that transcends into different themes and topics around what a flexible workplace looks like. It's not just about if you can work there or work from home, but flexibility does transcend that whole health and wellness piece as well.
Thanks, Lisa. Already you've imparted a lot of information, a lot of background there, but, you know, it's that motivating purpose is so important to the drive that you need to have, particularly when you're pursuing something which is primarily educational in nature. As you said, Natalie, for many it might be just to tick the box, but as you're both saying, there's so much more to workplace health and well-being that we all need to be aware of. But then there's the ability to drive change as well, isn't it, that goes behind that. And that's the bigger challenge in a workplace, is actually to create those cultures that are more flexible, more inclusive, more aware of the factors that impact on people's health and well-being, not just at work, but also at home. So it's about increasing awareness too, but you've got to have the passion. So that's what I love about the way you guys are going about it, that there's a very strong motive behind it. So let's move on to the next question, is what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about workplace well-being, and how can those misconceptions be addressed?
And I probably touched on it in my response around the notion that health and wellbeing is a bit of a tick and a flick exercise. And early on, when Lisa and I formed Own Your Health Collective, the first thing we said was we do not want to be that company that is a tick and a flick, or is a nice to have exercise. Rather, we're in a business trying to create real change and really create culture change, but also behaviour change for the individual as well. So it's funny, I don't know where this sort of notion stemmed from, and perhaps it's just been because we've never really spoken too much about health and wellbeing in the workplace so much until recently. But it really is more than just a tick and a flick. And as Lisa and I have both shared, there's a real great opportunity to be able to support our people to come to work as their full self in whatever experience they're having, whether that is health related or well-being or, career aspirations. And as a business, really nurture that and support people so that they can come as their best, but also finish work as their best as well. And one thing I love to share too, sometimes I think people can get caught up in this idea that if we support our people too much, they might end up leaving. It might get them thinking about other things that they could be doing instead. But I often say, if you can see an employee who has left a business and they look back on their time in that company and they say, geez, that company was so good to me, and actually share and become a referral for that business as well, I think that's a really great motivator, not just for the individual, but for the wider business too, knowing that you've made such a great impact on that person.
Such a good point, Natalie, and really relevant to the work that we do in our business, because attraction and retention are just such very important dynamics in the recruitment market at the moment. That there is, first of all, from the employee point of view, people are looking for workplaces that are going to meet their needs, whatever they might be. And from an employer perspective, it's about what can we do for our people that will create a workplace where they want to stay and that they'll recommend us to other people as well. And this can be a really big differentiator, not just from a marketing perspective, but as also just in the way people enjoy working where they are and being able to bring others with them. So such a good point. It works both ways. There's such a win-win in all of this for everyone.
Yeah, and the evidence is becoming more and more and showing that, well-being is one of those prerequisites for a lot of people when they consider employment.
Yeah. Lisa, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, look, I think you've got a diagram of ours actually, Warren, that we might pop up around the different pillars that we operate on your Howardco on and work with workplaces, because there's a real thought process that workplace wellbeing or health is just around the physical side of health, but it actually transcends. It's actually more than that. So
there it is. This is the diagram, and I've got to say, Lisa, this is what captured my imagination when you put this slide up in front of our conference, and I thought, that's it. So talk us through it. Explain what this is all about.
So workplace health, or, those type of misconceptions is around thinking that it's just physical health, but it's actually more than that. And as you can see here, we have physical, mental, emotional, spiritual pillars that all transcend with the self in the middle. So when we're working with workplaces or even individuals one-on-one, we help them understand that it's not just the physical health that impacts performance and health and well-being in the workplace, that these other elements, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, all come into it as well. And there's an element of actually, talking to them and educating them around what pillars perhaps that they may want to concentrate on at any one time. We're not obviously proposing that they concentrate on all of them at one time, because that could be a little bit confusing, obviously, or too much, obviously. But, one person's physical health may be where they're at, as opposed to another person within an organisation. It could be their mental or emotional health that they need help with. But from a workplace perspective, it's really important that we understand that it's all of these encompassing pillars that will really work towards that workplace wellbeing piece, and actually working with their people in making sure that they are the healthiest they can be. Because let's face it, we spend a long time at work, don't we? Whether we're working at the office or remotely. And one thing that we are seeing is that people working remotely tend to work longer hours as well, because there's sometimes a emotion around, I'll just do a little bit more, and before they know it, they've done another hour and a half outside when, they might have been travelling home from work or whatever it looks like. So it's really important that we're actually supporting our people through these different pillars as well.
So as I said, a great picture and a really good explanation, Lisa. I think what struck me when I saw this for the first time was that word in the middle, and that's self.
Self.
And why that struck me was because everyone is different. So we're all impacted by those factors around the outside in the other four circles, but not all at the same time and not in the same way. So we have an understanding of well-being, which is larger than ourself, but also that everyone has a different perspective on that as well. So if I say well-being to you, you may have a different view of what that means if compared with how I might be viewing it at that time, just depending on what's going on with me as well.
It's actually like a fingerprint. Our fingerprints are different. So our perspective on what it means to you or to others is going to be very different as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's just the fact that we need to be supporting our people through the different pillars is what's really important. And then they can go forth and, go from there and see what they need help with.
That's excellent. Thank you. As I said, great diagram. Really just gives us an insight into some of the, I guess, the complexity of when we're talking about well-being, but also once you've got a hold on that, once you understand what all the elements are, you can start being more aware of it, both for yourself and also the people who work for you as well. We'll go to the next question, and perhaps we can turn that slide off now and come back to the gallery. So let's look to the future now, right? So you guys are in the business of dealing with today, but obviously through your research and your awareness of what's going on, you must have a bit of an insight into what the trends are. So how do you envisage the future of workplace wellbeing in Australia, and what are some of those trends and innovations that you're most excited about?
And yes, absolutely. There's a lot of talk around workplace of the future. And I don't feel like we've really touched on what that quite looks like and I think it's going to be very different for every business. But essentially, when I think about workplace of the future, I really do believe that it's the individual people who will be driving what that looks like in terms of what they need for themselves. So thinking about the framework and thinking about the self in terms of where that individual self is, there's going to be different needs that each person is going to have, and how can they then form part of a wider culture to get what they need to be able to support themselves. It's that whole notion around humanising work and seeing people for who they are, where they are in their life, and offering that support that is, I guess, suited to where they are in life. So one of the things we do a lot of work around is menopause, for example, and women's health, and also healthy ageing too, because we are also an ageing population. And looking at both genders and what each individual person needs in terms of where they are in their life, I think is a really important step forward where workplaces are going to have to go, because, sadly too, there's a lot more chronic disease as well as people are aging, and we need to ensure that people have access to these resources so that they can feel energised and perform at their best, work and live at their best as well. And then, of course, I think that whole health notion too is going to be a trend that really does come into play. And actually, I was reading an article from McKinsey Healthcare, and they talk about the healthcare matrix, and they specifically talk about, health is more than physical health. It's our mental, it's our emotional, and it's our spiritual health as well, which needs to take a part. And reading this article, it's quite amazing that it's almost like they've picked up our framework and spoken about it. But I do see that that's the trend that a lot of people are going to be wanting to focus on. And we're probably seeing that on the back of the last couple of years as well, that people are looking for a deeper sense of purpose. They are looking for deeper connections with people, and they're looking for opportunities to learn and grow, which all play a part in someone's whole health, which ultimately will support people to be able to bring their whole selves to work.
Thanks, Natalie. Lisa, what would you like to add about your view of the future?
There is a real growing recognition around the future of health and wellbeing and what that looks like in the workplace, and it's definitely taken a big 180 turn almost, I suppose, since we've had to cope with, the COVID and what that looks like. And I think, we talk about change earlier, so I think we thought a lot about change pre-COVID, but now the change is actually, there's action happening within change. It's not just a thought anymore. How do we do it? You know, we've heard the stories around companies saying, oh, they've got the IT for us to work remotely, but they never really actioned that and what that looks like. Well, COVID just forced us to implement those IT systems and programs and whatever it is to be able to have that connectivity out of the office. So I think having well-being and implementing it into a business is actually showing how important that is from an employer's perspective to the employee, and the importance to an employee, because there is also an element of responsibility by the employee back to the employer to make sure they're looking after themselves. If they're given the tools and programs and the training, that they need to actively be taking that on. And, you know, you'll hear Natalie and I say, if you were to coach, you know, do a coaching element with us, that, you know, we can definitely coach you along, but the success is in what you actually take up and do in relation to the success and the goals that you want to reach. So, and again, it comes back to those pillars, you know, that self and how that translates into that mental, that spiritual, physical and emotional health that produces a happy, energised, productive workforce moving forward.
Thank you, Lisa, for that extra perspective. Right, wonderful, guys. I mean, fantastic conversation. I've got a few impromptu questions here. Do you mind if we go into those just off the cuff? But they're all related, and you know, they can just be short and sharp. But the first one is, look, for some people, well-being might seem to be a very big concept right now, having seen all of the different elements that are at play. Is there a simple definition that you use for well-being in the workplace that helps people get a hold of what it really means?
There's a really great quote actually that comes from Associate Professor Michelle McQuaid, who's done quite a lot of work in Melbourne University as well. And she defined well-being as the ability to function and feel good. And I think when you can really pair back well-being to that concept of being able to function and feel good, it really starts to simplify it and look at, okay, so what do I need to be able to function well and feel good? And also recognizing that we can still be in a place of struggle and challenge and still have good well-being. But it's having those resources, internal and external resources, to support our well-being.
I love that. That's so practical, insightful. That's going in the newsletter, Natalie.
And simple.
It's
so simple. And, you know, we tend to complicate so many things. And I don't know if it's a case of me just getting older, but Natalie and I are very much around trying to simplify health and wellness. And, you know, there's so many different messages that are complicating it. So, yeah, it's a great definition.
Exactly. And I think that's what I've appreciated in the way that you're able to present this topic as well. So the other question I have in my mind is probably coming from the perspective of a business owner now who's listening to us and thinking about, well, how does this apply to me? And what comes to my mind is that saying about physician, heal thyself, right? You know, a lot of what we're talking about is the workplace and the team. But what about the business owner, the leader? Obviously, they're going through all these same experiences. Who's looking after them and what should they be doing?
Yes, very true. And we actually do quite a bit of work with business owners as well. And we talk a lot about this idea that if the business owner is not thriving in themselves, the business or the people that make up that business are not going to thrive either. So it's really important that as a business owner that we are taking care of ourselves and doing the things that support us so that we can be the leader that we want to be, whilst also being essentially a bit of a role model for the people that work for us too. So yeah, business owners' health and wellbeing, I feel, tends to go a little bit unnoticed and unspoken about, but critically important.
Yeah, and I think you used that analogy, either you or Lisa, about the oxygen mask, was it? Did you use that? And you know, in the airplane, you know, you'd be the first one to put the oxygen mask on because people are going to be depending on you. The other question I had was along the same lines, but if we're talking to a business owner or a business leader of a small to medium business, and they haven't really done much in this space, but they want to, you know, this is something they're definitely motivated by. What's a good starting point for them to get started on this road to introducing workplace wellbeing into their workplace? Where do they start?
Mm.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the needs analysis. Sorry, Lisa, jumped in there.
No, look, go. Yep, yep.
But yeah, really understanding what is it that your people want or need, because yes, it's very easy to implement various workshops or various health and wellbeing programs, but if you want to really get the results, you need to understand what is it that your people might be looking for or needing.
And that's really, it's an important piece, because whilst they want something, they don't know what they need. And, you know, a lot of them might have ideas, but the needs analysis really crystallises, you know, which area they can go. We're sort of not, as we mentioned, tick and flick a few times, we're also keen to develop programs, workshops, you know, training, whatever that might be, specific to a workplace in what they need, in what it is that they need. So that needs analysis can be really, really helpful to be the first cab off the rank. And it's not an exhaustive process, but it really brings together the things that they probably need to concentrate on more, rather than something else that they thought was the first point of you know, the most important thing. So it really, really draws out what's the most important thing that they may or may not realise that it is.
Very helpful, like an audit. But you guys know the questions to ask, right? So that's the most important thing, that we can self-analyse, but it's much better to have another perspective, especially coming from an expert base. Well, I just want to thank you both. We've had a really great conversation. I'm sure anyone who's been listening to our interview today will go away a lot wiser about what workplace health and wellbeing are all about, and hopefully some practical tips from the discussions that we've had also that you can take away and put into practice in your business. So if people want to take this further, Natalie and Lisa, how can they get in touch with you?
Yes, well, they can go and have a look at our website at ownyourhealthco.com.au, or they're also very welcome to send us a direct email, which is info@ownyourhealthco.com.au, and very happy to have a chat with anybody.
Thank you very much. And we'll put those details in our newsletter as well, so people can access them through the web and get in touch with you also. And of course, at Howardco, if you want to work out how to build workplace health and wellbeing into your attraction and retention strategy, then give us a call and we can help you with that as well. But this has been a wonderful opportunity to share thoughts and ideas and questions. And hopefully you'll see also that as professionals, what we endeavour to do is find the best solutions for you, and then find the best people who have that support that they can provide for you, and then. So I think, you know, I'm hopeful that going forward, Howardco and Own Your Health, Natalie and Lisa, will also find opportunities to work further together. So if you have any information or any requests you'd like, either contact Lisa and Natalie or ourselves. Well, thank you for joining us, and read the newsletter and let us know what you think.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.